What industry is a lot shadier than it seems? Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados. The textbook industry. Pearson is the fucking mafia. Trucking. The margins are razor thin, and so everyone is trying to nickel and dime each other constantly. The drivers lie to their dispatchers. The dispatchers lie to the brokers lie to the clients. All of this for like $50 to $100 sometimes. Health insurance. In the commercials it is all about caring for your health and stuff. But if you ever get a serious illness, they will do anything to avoid paying for your treatment. Source. My mother got breast cancer and her health insurance made a business decision to let her die rather than pay the $40,000 for her treatment. They made that decision then hired lawyers to make it happen. My mom got to fight them in court while going through chemo. She made it by mortgaging the house. She told me the insurance company caused her more stress than the prospect of dying. More people died last year over vanilla in Madagascar than cocaine in South America. They've even coined the term vanilla murder. Farmers hire armed mercenaries to guard their crops from thieves near harvest time. And if one is caught, well, let's just say it's in response to all the farmers that were killed by thieves for the same reason. This article is a fairly light read on the subject without anything too graphic. But there's a great deal of information about it floating around, along with some pretty disturbing accounts. CBD, lot of predatory companies making subpar products with questionable raw materials, and then marking it way the fuck up and selling it as a miracle cure to vulnerable and ill-educated consumers. Usually have a high-power legal team on deck, but pay their workers shit and no benefits. All industries are shadier than they seem. I used to work for a flute manufacturer, and it was shady as hell. Not an industry, but higher academia is badly broken. Some of the smartest people are some of the most badly exploited. Old tenured professors limit the number of faculty many departments can have, forcing people to work as postdocs forever, effectively doing all the work the prof should be doing in the first place. Meager pay and long hours, plus constant pressure makes postdocs some of the most depressed people. The grad students are no better either. A lot of the times grad students don't complain about ill treatment, harassment and outright bullying as they don't want to jeopardize their prospects of graduating. If you're a foreigner, this situation becomes even worse, whether you're a grad student or a postdoctoral researcher. A lot of hobby fish importing is pretty shady. You have farms of certain types of fish like bettas in some areas of the world that are run with the fish in horrible conditions. Which is why a lot of the ones you get in a major chain store are sick before you even bring them home. The stores will blame the fish being stressed, but I've ordered and received hundreds of fish from small breeders/sellers and outside of Cory catfish that really enjoy committing suiciding by poisoning their own water. The fish arrive healthy and fine. Outside of boutique fish farming, the way some wild fish are caught is just horrible. The trappers will lightly poison the water supply to knock out the fish, then scoop them out of the water without a care for that area's ecosystem. This has led to depletion of some natural species to the point they are now endangered. Lastly, boutique fish sellers/major chains do not give half a rat's ass what happens to the fish in the end. This means that people who buy fish like plecos, bettas, goldfish, etc. end up getting sick of them and dumping them in local waterways to supposedly get rid of the problem. So in some areas, these fish have completely destroyed the local water ecology because like other invasive land species, they were never meant to be there. One of the worst offenders is the lionfish in Florida. It's venomous and has no natural predators, so its population has exploded out of control. The same is true of plecos and goldfish. Basically releasing fish into the wild is a terrible idea. Releasing any animal into the wild can have disastrous consequences, but fish are being released into a very limited ecosystem and outside of a few diseases. If they can adapt to the water and have no predators, they will survive and breed incredibly quickly. I love my fish, I love the hobby, and there's a lot of value to it as global warming may make things like reef tanks a valuable source of coral in the future. But there's also a lot of bad to it. Doesn't the beauty industry have a problem with child labor? I remember watching a thing where a journalist goes to India to see the mines where children mine some sort of mineral to make bronzer. Dietary supplements. It's gotten better, but there's still a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Not all that long ago it was seriously like the wild wild west. Jewelry/gems/diamonds is pretty dark. This will probably get buried, but glitter. A manager of one of the biggest glitter manufacturers, Glitterx, said in a 2018 interview that most of the glitter they make goes to one buyer for a single industrial use. When asked who the buyer was and why they need so much glitter, she said, "Oh, I definitely can't disclose that." When asked why, she said, "Because they don't want anybody to know it's glitter." Ever since this interview, people have been trying to guess what company or industry secretly uses most of the world's glitter, and why they want to keep that use under wraps. A link to the interview. Eyeglasses. You have no idea the snow job they put most people through when it comes to buying them. It's far, far worse than trying to buy a new car from a dealership. Wholesale frames are about $5 to $20. Wholesale lens blanks are another $10. Any kind of dip coating, UV, tinting, etc., is negligible cost and effort to apply, literally pennies. To top it off, they don't even do a whole lot in-house, but send it to labs, which are basically sweatshops that can take up to 2 to 3 weeks when labor time is literally under 5 minutes. Instead of training real opticians and technicians, they're just glorified sales staff now. Most of the time they don't even bother with proper measurement for PD, frame width, or arm fitting. Was an optician in the early 90s. I'm horrified at what the business has become. Mattress industry. Specifically, mattress firm. The non-profit world, unfortunately. Most people at the top are in it to make a name for themselves and don't usually care about the mission of the organization. The music and the art industry. Apparently tiger zoos. And hashtag X200B. Defense contract manufacturing. When I worked in that field, it was like a time capsule to 70s stereotypes. Beer for lunch, whiskey in the desk drawer, everyone fucking everyone, and the best seats at the biggest games for decision makers. What industry isn't? I have no proof of this, but the high-end art industry, I 100% believe most of it is just to launder money. My dad knows a story from someone who works for a nationwide grocery chain. They have to deal with an Italian mafia to import balsamic vinegar. Logistics industry, with major corporations such as Walmart being one of the biggest contributors to selling stolen goods. Sometimes trucks go missing, or sometimes trucks leave earlier than the established time of departure and never arrive to their destinations. Let's say you have a Walmart appointment for 9 a.m. for a 2,000 carton order. It would take at least 2 hours to load all that, but once the loading is done, the truck driver needs to wait until confirmation is given in written form. Well, Walmart truck drivers vanish halfway through the loading and never return. Now Walmart has about 1,000 boxes not accounted for, plus no confirmation whatsoever that these 1,000 boxes were part of that 2,000 carton order, so they treat them like a bonus. So far, only UPS, FedEx and Fred Meyer are the only companies that keep a close count and send back anything that wasn't in their original order. Heck, Fred Meyer sends the entire order back just for a single mislabeled box, LOL. These 3 guys are the good guys, from what little I've seen, but Walmart, Jesus. Sometimes, boxes get labeled as being something entirely different in order to bypass special qualifications or restrictions. For example, about the time when Corona-chan started going crazy, we had to label toys and board games as groceries for a huge Walmart order that took about a week and a half to properly label and ship. It was a nightmare, and pretty much every employee aside from the administrative staff was disgusted and pissed. Medical research. The only way people can keep their jobs at a lot of the institutions with better facilities is to create a steady stream of high-impact publications. Now, research doesn't work that way. You get the supported results whenever it happens, but that's not how hiring, promotion, or tenure committees see it. This means that, in order to ensure you get enough of these desirable publications in the right period, you have to do all sorts of corner cutting. You publish before the results are well supported. You publish results that are unrepeatable. You write papers in the smallest possible units of the work, so people need to wait years to see what the full results are. In the process, junior scientists' careers can be made or absolutely destroyed in this system. A lucky student who gets the right project can find themselves as first author on a very high-impact paper and be set for years, but an experienced and previously successful postdoc can be ruined when they can't produce the results the senior scientists want, or just not in the right time frame. The senior scientists rarely have the time to do, or carefully look over, the actual research because they are so busy actually writing the papers and the grants needed to fund the work in the first place. If reviewers catch these issues with the papers, the authors just shop the paper to other journals until it passes, and or they put up such a pitched battle with the editors they just let it pass. Sometimes the EDS feel they can't handle the pressure, sometimes are just convinced by the bombast. All of us have seen published papers that we rejected for other journals earlier because the work is poorly done or is just incorrect. To be clear, the authors really believe in their papers even when they are aware of their shortcomings, and they usually have plenty of evidence that papers just as problematic or worse have been published, so why not theirs? On top of everything, the universities and research institutions work over these findings with their press department, and by the time it makes it to journalists, the story is so distorted that it's barely related to the actual work. Bloggers digest this even further, and the misperceptions of spread all over a much wider community. Even other scientists in different areas of the same field will absorb this news as truth. These are the scientists on those committees mentioned above, demanding a particular kind of result. As a result of all this, medical research is much more inefficient and expensive than it needs to be. However, scientists need to jobs, grant money, and good facilities to do their work at all. And the system makes it clear what they need to do to ensure those necessities, so they oblige. Meat industry. The factories are straight up disgusting, not hygienic, and they break so many regulations it's ridiculous. But OFC, when an inspection comes, everything is in order. The tire business. Tires are a scam and shouldn't cost anywhere near what they do. Everyone along the supply chain is making bank. It's one of the industries I would love to see disrupted. Mental health facilities. A lot of people trust today's mental health facilities, but from my experience they're quite flawed. Staff can be judgmental and condescending and downright cruel. A family member of mine was institutionalized for a while. I say with full certainty she was healthier before she went in than coming out. The places I've seen are most definitely for profit. They had no intentions of having her fixed and released. Also sloppy. She was given the wrong people's meds several times. She was also prescribed dangerous combinations that wound up having her sent to the ER. Really stupid mistakes were made over and over. The plastic industry. They focus on telling the individual to recycle as a way to address/fix the global trash crisis. The real focus should be on companies that mass-produce plastic and label it as recyclable. But recycling companies cannot actually recycle the materials. It costs too much to recycle certain materials, and no one is willing to buy them. Seriously, gentlemen's clubs aka strip clubs. I worked as a bouncer/DJ for many years in a couple clubs, and there is a lot going on in the background that is shady as hell. Not only from the dancers but also bartenders, bouncers, management, owners, etc. Fishing industry. As a new manufacturer up against brands well known for manufacturing in China for generations, I found that from the highest up to the lowest down, they present an offer to make more money together, and time after time after time, it doesn't pan out as presented. I stopped my business. In about a year, I might give it another shot, but times will be much different. However, those businesses have generations of success killing the competition. I'm pretty sure I'm no match for them due to, sorry, I have actual values. I'll get financially killed again. But hey, if you like to fish, I make a really good fishing line cutter. We can do commerce in a better way. Scholarly journals. The actual research is usually paid for by the government. When it isn't paid for by the government, it's paid for by a foundation, or in pharmaceuticals by a corporation that is developing a drug. The people who vet the research are all paid by their respective universities. All the journal does is distribute it. Yet they charge way more per page than anyone else who just distributes other people's writing. ITT. Every industry is shady as fuck. Rent to own. They prey on the poor and you pay way more than what the item is actually worth, let alone selling for. Dog boarding/daycare. Not shady in the mafia sense, but you'd be surprised at some of the places I've worked at. Aggressive dogs don't get kicked out. Very dishonest about what goes on behind the scenes. Not enough staff to care for the number of dogs. My co-workers at my current job have had the same experience as well. We were all very happy to find a place that actually treats the dogs as the #1 priority. Most people are just in it for the money, which is funny because there isn't much money in the dog industry. Higher education. It's a lot of nearly scamming kids into going to specific schools and not properly preparing them for the cost, and in most cases, overwhelming debt. $900 textbooks, $750 digital codes for a few lines of text or tests, books that change one sentence per edition change yet require new books, etc., etc. Not everyone can be a doctor, or psychologist, or teacher, or insert profession here. Yet schools will pump out hundreds a year for a single profession and keep telling others that the demand will be there. Then you'll have the assholes calling people names for going for worthless degrees, because somehow that's helpful. Then you have asshole fuckwads touting how they work 10 jobs working 340 hours a week while doing full-time school, taking care of 16 kids, a wife with cancer, solving world hunger, and curing cancer, and they still got straight A's and a job paying $400,000 out of school. If they can do it, then you're just a lazy fucker if you can't. Shit like that. I'm more comfortable than anyone in my shitty redneck drug addict piece of crap family has probably ever been. Despite that, I still understand and recognize the plight of others less fortunate than me. The whole thing is a depressing racket. Payday loan places. They seem shady, but they're much shadier than they appear. Fuck those places. I used to work as a mechanic, and I damn well know some things they overcharge the customer for way too much. One time a girl came into my shop, maybe late 20s, you could tell she had no idea about cars. Well, there was some snow the last few weeks and she brought her car in because her roof concaved in on top where the snow sat, so now there's a bowl-like spot on her car roof. So she asked us if we could somehow fix it, so my manager came up, told her he'll take a look. So she goes and sits in the lobby area. My manager opens the car door and looks at the roof for 3 seconds before slamming his fist up into the roof of the car, pushing the collapsed roof back to normal. He kept the car in the shop for an hour and spent maybe 10 minutes rubbing the dents out. He charged her $700 for a good punch. Glad I'm not in that industry anymore. The alcohol industry. In some countries, most competing companies use the same distilleries, equipment, and ingredients. This includes the higher-end premium spirits. All the marketing is basically, look how young you are and how much fun you'll have, and completely ignores the demographics who buy it or does anything to stop them. I'm fairly certain at least one of the major companies is cooking their books at this point. Elder care and nursing homes. Ask anyone in /r/EMS. We know. I actually learned this from Netflix, Gold. Apparently, a large part of the U.S. gold industry is a front for drug cartels to launder money.